AITA for calling out my girlfriend after she let her ex call her his little woman. My name is Derek. I am 34 years old, and I am a physical therapist. My job always demanded patience, precision, and a cool head. I am used to dealing with other people's pain, with frustrated people, with long rehabilitations, with patients who one day believe they are improving and the next feel they are not making any progress at all. I thought that experience made me strong for my personal life as well. It was not like that. Until a few months ago, I was convinced that my relationship with Natalie was solid, not perfect, because no relationship is, but stable. We had been living together for a little over 2 years. She worked as an office manager at a popular downtown restaurant. She was one of those restless women who could not sit still for a long time. She always had something to do: organizing, cleaning, moving furniture, going out, calling someone, planning a gathering. I, in comparison, was much calmer. Maybe that is why we worked well at first. She brought movement where I brought calm, or at least so I thought. Everything changed one November night. I was finishing a session with a patient when I received a call from an unknown number. I answered thinking it would be a work inquiry. It was a male voice, nervous and fast. "Are you Derek, Natalie's partner?" I felt an instant drop in my stomach. "Yes." "What happened?" "She was in a car accident. They brought her to Memorial Hospital. She is not in danger, but she needs you to come." I do not even remember how I drove there. I only know I arrived with trembling hands. Natalie had crashed into another vehicle on a main road. As they explained to me, the driver in front ran a red light and hit the side of her car. It was not a major tragedy, but it was enough to cause serious fractures in her right leg, with damage to the ligaments and immediate surgery. When I saw her on the stretcher, pale, sedated, and full of tubes, I felt a mix of fear and compassion that completely disarmed me. She barely opened her eyes. "You came," she whispered. I squeezed her hand. Of course I came. I did not leave the hospital that night, nor the next, nor for almost any of the weeks that followed. The operation went well considering the circumstances, but the orthopedic surgeon was clear. A slow recovery, at least several months without being able to put weight on the leg normally, constant physical therapy, and a lot of care to avoid complications. Natalie heard all of that and burst into tears. I hugged her. "We are going to get through this," I told her. And at that moment, I truly believed it. The first few days after her discharge were crazy. We had to adapt the house, move furniture, get a shower chair, buy medications, orthopedic pillows, a small stool so she could sit in the kitchen, crutches, bandages, anti-inflammatories, supplements. I took care of absolutely everything. She could not even go to the bathroom without help. The first few weeks, I was the one who bathed her, who helped her get dressed, who checked that the wound was healing well, who cooked, who washed, who cleaned, and also who kept working. I slept little, ate when I could, but I never complained. More than once, co-workers told me, "You are wearing yourself out, Derek." And I would answer the same thing. It is temporary. Because that is what I kept repeating to myself. This is a phase, a test, then we will go back to normal. At first, Natalie was deeply grateful. You could see it in her eyes. Every time I helped her sit up or change the bandage, she would stroke my hand. "I do not know what I would do without you." "Do not be silly," I would reply. "That is what we are here for." She would kiss my cheek. No, really, not everyone would do this. And hearing that made me feel like all the effort made sense. The problem was that gratitude does not last long when frustration sets in. After the first month, Natalie was no longer the same. She still depended on me for almost everything, but she stopped speaking sweetly. She started getting irritated by anything. If breakfast was not how she wanted it, she got upset. If I took 10 minutes longer to get back from work, she got upset. If I told her she should do certain exercises so she would not lose mobility, she would make an annoyed face. "I know, Derek, do not repeat it to me every 5 minutes." I try to understand her. It is not easy to go from being an active person to depending on someone even to get out of bed. I told myself that her bad mood was part of the process, that I should not take it personally, so I swallowed it. One night, while I was arranging some pillows under her leg, she blurted out, "I feel like my life is ruined." I looked at her. "It is not ruined, it is just on pause. It is easy for you to say because you can go out, work, see people, do your routine." "Natalie, no, listen. I am locked up in here like a piece of furniture. I did not answer because she was partly right. Since the accident, her world had been reduced to four walls and a window overlooking the parking area. I tried to cheer her up in many ways. I suggested watching movies, reading together. I even bought her a tablet so she could entertain herself. Some days it worked, others it did not. Over time, she began to spend hours on her phone, chatting, sometimes laughing to herself, typing with a speed she did not have before. I did not ask too much because I did not want to become a police officer. I thought she was talking to friends, restaurant coworkers, or relatives, but I started to notice something. When I got closer, she would lower the brightness or lock the screen, not in a blatant way, but automatically. Once I asked her, half joking, "What are you hiding so much?" And she answered without looking at me, "Nothing, just boring conversations." I let it go. Today I know I should have paid more attention right there. Another weird change was her sudden interest in dressing up on certain days. There were whole days when she stayed unkempt, in pajamas, and in a bad mood. But suddenly, for no apparent reason, she would put on a little makeup, do her hair nicely, and take pictures of herself from the couch. One afternoon, I found her looking for her best angle with her phone. I smiled. Modeling session. She turned off the camera. I just wanted to look less awful. "No, you do not look awful." Yes, I do." I gave her a kiss on the forehead and went about my business. But again, I was left with that small feeling, that mental pebble that bothers you, even if you still do not understand why. The company where she worked did not fire her, but they were not paying her full salary either. They kept her position while she recovered, which sounded good in theory, but in practice, it meant that all the expenses fell on me. Rent, utilities, food, medications, private consultations, transportation, complimentary physical therapy, everything. My bank account started to suffer, even though I earned a decent living. There were nights when I sat in front of my laptop checking numbers and let out a slow breath. I was not broke, but I was exhausted. Even so, I never told Natalie, "This is taking a toll on me." I did not want her to feel like a burden. Perhaps that was my mistake, because while I was tearing myself apart so she would not feel guilty, she started acting as if my support were a natural obligation. The thank yous disappeared. She replaced them with phrases like, "Did you buy the medicine? I need you to bring me water. The food is a bit cold. Can you move that chair?" Small, everyday orders, but spoken with a familiarity that no longer held any tenderness. One night, I arrived exhausted after treating 9 patients in a row. I just wanted to take a shower and sit in silence for 20 minutes. I walked in and, without even saying hello, she said from the couch, "I am craving sushi." I looked at her. "Natalie, it is 10 o'clock at night, and I am dead tired." She made a face. "You never want to do me a favor when I ask you for something." I stayed quiet. That phrase sat wrong with me because it was absurdly unfair. But once again, I did not argue. I ordered sushi. That was how our dynamic was working, me putting out fires and her convinced that there would always be someone running after her needs. 2 weeks before her birthday, another topic came up. I was cooking when she said, "I do not want to let my birthday pass by as if it did not exist." I turned to look at her. "What do you have in mind?" "Something small here at home, so I do not feel like this year was complete garbage." The idea seemed reasonable to me. After so many months locked up, a get-together with friends could lift her spirits. "All right," I replied. "How many people?" "Just close ones. 10 or 12 or so." I nodded. "We will organize it." For the first time in weeks, I saw her excited, and that brought me a sense of relief. I thought, maybe this will help us, maybe the old Natalie will come back a bit. I could not imagine that, in reality, that night would end up showing me a Natalie I had never known. In the following days, she was glued to her phone much more than usual. She sent messages, made short calls, smiled, sometimes even hid the conversation when I walked by. I asked once, "Did you invite everyone already?" "Yes, almost." "Who was going?" "The usual people, Derek." The answer was quick, too quick, but I decided not to press the issue. I did not feel like arguing over details. Besides, honestly, at that moment I still trusted her. I trusted her because when you are giving everything for a person, your brain refuses to accept that that same person could be preparing a humiliation for you. And that denial was exactly what kept me calm until the night of the birthday. Her birthday fell on a Saturday. I had half the day off, so from early on I started preparing everything. I went to the grocery store, bought steaks and burgers for the grill, snacks, sodas, beer, a medium-sized cake, and some sweet things, because Natalie always said that a party empty of desserts looked like a wake. While I was putting grocery bags away in the kitchen, she was sitting in the living room with her phone in her hand, typing nonstop. "Can I help you with anything?" she asked out of obligation. I looked at her out of the corner of my eye. "No, I am almost done." She did not even insist. She remained focused on the screen. The curious thing was that day she had a different energy. For weeks I had seen her dull, without even the desire to brush her hair, but that morning she was almost anxious. She had gotten up early, showered by herself, although it took her an eternity, and spent a good while choosing clothes. I tried to see it as a good sign. She is excited, I thought. At noon, one of her friends, Allison, came over to help her with her makeup and hair. From the kitchen, I could hear giggles, whispers, comments between them. "You are going to look divine. Do you not think it is too much?" "Not at all. Today you have to look spectacular." I do not know why, but that last phrase sounded strange to me. Spectacular? For what? It was not a wedding or a huge party. It was a home gathering with close friends. When Natalie came out of the bedroom, I almost did not recognize her. She was wearing a tight burgundy dress she had not worn in a long time. Full makeup, wavy hair, and perfume. A lot of perfume, more than she normally put on even when we went out. I observed her for a few seconds. "You look very dressed up for someone who said she wanted something simple this year." She smiled. "Let me feel pretty for at least one day." I approached and gave her a short kiss. "You are always pretty." She answered me with a smile, but it was a distracted smile, as if her attention were elsewhere. At 7 o'clock, the guests started arriving, the usual ones, indeed. Allison and her boyfriend, 2 co-workers from the restaurant, a couple of friends I already knew, a neighbor Natalie got along well with, and Scott, an old high school friend of hers I had crossed paths with several times. In total, about 12 people. The house began to fill with voices, the smell of food, and music. I moved from one place to another serving drinks, checking the grill, offering plates, picking up glasses. More host than guest, but it did not bother me. I wanted Natalie to feel accompanied, and she was happy, too happy. She laughed loudly, talked with everyone, let herself be photographed, toasted over and over again. Several people even commented, "It is so good to see you this cheerful. We really needed a beautiful night." I nodded from afar. For a while, I managed to relax. Maybe I had worried too much. Maybe the tension of the last few months had me seeing ghosts where there was nothing. But around 9:30, the first detail happened that made me frown. Natalie started looking frequently toward the door. Not once, many times, like someone waiting for somebody. At first, I thought some guest was missing, but her level of attention was not casual. Every sound from the hallway made her turn her head. Scott, who was drinking a beer next to me, noticed it too. "Your woman looks like a hotel receptionist," he joked. I let out a slight smile. "Yeah, she has been acting weird since early today. Someone is missing, I do not know." And it was right at that moment that the doorbell rang. Natalie literally left her glass on the table and stood up suddenly with her crutches. She did not even give me time to react. "I will get it," she said too quickly. Everyone turned out of inertia. We watched her advance toward the door with a rush she had not shown in weeks, not even to go to the bathroom. I stood still for a few seconds. Something tightened in my chest. Natalie opened the door, and the first thing I heard was, "I thought you would not come." Her voice was not the voice you use to greet just any guest. It was intimate, warm, loaded with an emotion that made me feel instantly uncomfortable. I stepped closer. In the entryway stood a tall, dark-haired man wearing a black shirt and an irritatingly confident smile. I recognized him because I had seen old photos. Victor, her ex Natalie had told me about him at the beginning of our relationship. My boyfriend of almost 4 years. I learned a lot with him. We broke up because we were both immature. That kind of story you listen to without giving it much importance because it supposedly belongs in the past. But the past was standing at my door, and he had been invited. Victor looked at me with that fake expression of a laid-back guy. "What is up, bro?" I did not return the greeting. I just looked at Natalie. "What is he doing here?" She swallowed hard. "Derek, please, do not start. I asked you what he is doing here." Victor raised his hands. "Chill. I just came to say hi." She insisted a lot that I drop by for a while. She insisted a lot. Those words hit me immediately. Natalie avoided looking at me. I felt a mixture of anger and bewilderment rise up in me. Not because an ex exists, we all have a past, but because no one secretly invites their ex to the house they share with their current partner, without knowing perfectly well that it is wrong. Scott appeared at my side, looked at Victor, then at me, and muttered in a low voice. This just got interesting. It was not the time for jokes, but I did not even have the energy to answer him. Natalie stepped a little closer. He is only going to be here for a while. Yeah. Do not ruin my birthday with a scene. That was where I felt the first mental click. She was not asking for permission. She was taking it for granted that I had to put up with it, as if I were the one out of line for getting uncomfortable. I took a deep breath. There were 12 people watching. I did not want to explode without understanding what the hell was going on. I took a step back. Do whatever you want. I said it dryly. Victor walked in, and from that moment on, the whole night changed its texture. The music kept playing, people kept eating. Some tried to talk normally, but the awkwardness was already floating in the air. Not everyone knew who Victor was, but those who did looked at each other with that morbid curiosity that appears when you sense disaster. I poured myself a glass of whiskey. I needed to occupy my hands, so I would not go straight to throwing him out of the house. Scott sat next to me on the couch. I am going to tell you something. Even if you do not ask me, he blurted out. Look, this is really messed up. I looked at him. He continued. And if you decide to ask them both to leave, I will help you open the door for them. I let out a breath through my nose. I still do not understand what Natalie is trying to do. Scott took a sip. I do understand. What is it? She needs attention, and she is playing the main character. I did not answer because, sadly, it made sense. Since the accident, everything revolved around her pain, her frustration, her needs. Maybe that was no longer enough for her, and she also wanted an emotional scene where everyone would look at her. What I did not know was how far she was willing to go. Victor blended in as if nothing had happened. He greeted people, smiled, ate, and Natalie did not leave his side by more than 6 feet. If someone spoke to her, she turned to look for his reaction. If he laughed, she laughed harder. If he commented on something, she touched his arm. It was not a coincidence, it was an exhibition. I watched in silence while inside I was losing something I had tried to keep until then, my goodwill. At 10:15, Natalie tapped a spoon against her glass. Guys, a little attention, please. The conversations died down. My stomach hardened. I did not know what she was going to say, but from the expression on her face, I understood it was nothing good. She took a breath. Her eyes were already wet, and when Natalie got dramatic with tears, it meant she had prepared a speech. I looked at Scott. Scott looked at me and muttered, "Oh man." Natalie smiled with rehearsed sadness. I want to say a few words. In that instant I knew, with a certainty hard to explain, that the night had just entered the point of no return. Natalie positioned herself in the middle of the living room, leaning on her crutches as if she were on a stage. Everyone fell silent. Even those who did not fully understand the tension sensed that something strange was about to happen. She began with a trembling voice. This has been the hardest year of my life. Several people nodded out of politeness. My accident made me think about many things. It made me value people, moments. It made me realize huge mistakes I made. I remained seated, motionless, with the glass in my hand. At first, I thought she would talk about her process, about how grateful she was to her friends, her family, maybe to me. How naive I was. Natalie continued. Sometimes you lose important people out of pride, out of immaturity, because of not knowing how to love properly. I felt a dry knot in my throat. Victor looked down with a half smile, and right there I understood. That whole damn little show was directed at him. Not at her friends, not at the party, not at me, at him. Natalie took a deep breath. There is a person here who I hurt very much, and I never had the courage to apologize to him the way he deserves. A murmur ran through the room. Some were already looking back and forth between Victor and me. Scott ran his hand over his face. It cannot be, he whispered. It could be. And it was happening. Natalie looked up directly at Victor. I was selfish with you, jealous, insecure. I pushed you away from me. And even today it hurts me to have lost the best man that ever walked into my life. The phrase dropped like a brick. I literally felt heat in my face. Not sadness, not disappointment, heat. The kind of rage that paralyzes you first because your brain takes a few seconds to process the level of disrespect. No one spoke. No one moved. Natalie was already crying. I know time has passed, but I needed to tell you that I am sorry, and if I could go back, I would do everything differently. Victor did the worst thing a man could do in that situation. Enjoy it. He approached slowly, calmly, with that confidence of someone who knows he is being validated in front of an audience. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Take it easy, Nat," he said in a soft tone. "I never held a grudge against you." Nat. Not even Natalie. Nat, the intimate nickname. My jaw tensed. Natalie let go of the crutches with one hand and hugged him around the waist. It was not a friendly hug. It was an emotional reunion hug. She rested her head on his chest and closed her eyes. In my house, in front of me, in front of people who had eaten my food and drank from my bottles half an hour ago. And in that instant, something switched off. I did not feel like crying. I did not feel like arguing. I felt an icy clarity, the kind of clarity that arrives when love takes a blow so grotesque that there is no more room left to justify it. I stood up. The noise of the table when I bumped it with my knee made several people jump. My voice came out deeper than usual. "Are you done with the show?" Natalie opened her eyes. Victor stepped back a bit. Everyone looked at me. I stepped toward the center slowly. "No, seriously, I am asking to know if this is over or if there is another chapter missing." "Derek," Natalie said, crying. I raised my hand. "Do not speak to me yet." My tone made her shut up. I looked around. "Did you all know about this? Or did she catch you as a free audience too?" Nobody answered. Allison muttered, "Derek, calm down." I looked at her. I am not going to calm down in my own house while my girlfriend declares her feelings to her ex as if this were a soap opera. Victor took a step forward. "Hey, do not get aggressive either." I let out a short laugh. "Aggressive? You are enjoying food I paid for while you hug the woman I live with. You have not seen aggression yet." Scott behind me muttered, "Amen." Natalie started crying harder. "It is not what it looks like." I turned to look at her. "Perfect. Then, explain to me what it looks like, because from where I am standing, it looks like I have spent months supporting a woman who is still emotionally attached to another man." The silence was brutal. Natalie covered her mouth. Several friends made faces of horror, but I no longer cared about looking good. I had crossed that point. "Derek, you are being cruel." Allison jumped in. I pointed at her without fully looking at her. "Cruel is secretly inviting your ex to the birthday your partner organizes and staging a sentimental declaration to him in front of everyone. Do not get things twisted." Victor tried to play the mediator. "Look, bro, I did not even want to come." She insisted. "Then, you can get out first." I said it staring right at him. He opened his mouth to reply, but he must have noticed that it was not a negotiable moment. He grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair. Natalie looked at him desperately. "Victor, wait." And that simple phrase finished burying her. She did not say, "Derek, wait." She said, "Victor, wait," as if the important one in the room was him. Victor raised his hands. "Do not drag me into couple drama. I am leaving." And he left just like that, without heroism, without a rescue, without carrying her burden. He just walked out the door because men like that enjoy the validation, but they rarely clean up the mess. Natalie was left in the middle of the living room, crying with the expression of a lost little girl. She looked at me. "Derek, please listen." I took a step closer. My voice was no longer a yell. It was worse. It was completely cold. "I listened to you ask for help for months, ask for attention for months, ask for things for months. I bathed you, I took care of your wounds, I took you to appointments, I worked double so you would not lack anything. And you used my house for this." I just wanted to close an emotional wound. I laughed humorlessly. "Well, you just opened another one because you have just been left with nowhere to live." Several people let out a gasp of surprise. Natalie turned pale. "What? What you heard? We are done. You cannot be serious." "I can, and I am saying it." She leaned awkwardly on her crutches. "Where am I going to go?" I stared at her, and right there was where I saw the complete truth. There was no remorse for disrespecting me. There was fear of losing comfort. She was not worried about the relationship. She was worried about who was going to bring her medications, pay the bills, cook, and move her chair. That realization emptied me completely. That is not my problem as of today. Allison approached. "Derek, you cannot ask her to leave like this. She is injured." Scott answered before I did. And she could not disrespect the man who supported her like that either. We are all making choices here. I almost felt like hugging him. Natalie started sobbing. Forgive me, it was a mistake. I did not think that. Exactly. I interrupted her. You did not think, you never thought about me. I went to the bedroom, pulled out 2 suitcases, and started packing the essentials. Clothes, makeup, chargers, documents, medicines. The whole living room was in silence. You could only hear her weeping and the sound of zippers. I placed the suitcases next to the door. Your dad or whoever you want can come tomorrow for the rest. Derek, do not do this to me. I observed her for a few seconds. I truly observed her, and I realized something painful. I was no longer looking at my partner. I was looking at a person who, for months, had confused care with obligation and love with service. I am not doing anything to you, I replied. I am just no longer allowing it. Scott and the neighbor helped take her things down to the hallway. Allison called a cab. No one argued anymore. When Natalie walked out supported by her friends, she turned around with her face destroyed by tears. She was perhaps hoping that I would run after her, that I would soften, that I would say, come back. It did not happen. I closed the door, and for the first time in many months, I felt true silence. Not the silence of exhaustion, the silence of when a lie finally ends. The next day, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, her father came, a serious man of few words. I let him in. The boxes were already ready. While he was carrying one of them, he asked me, was it that bad? I told him everything, unvarnished. He listened without interrupting me. At the end, he closed his eyes for a few seconds and shook his head. My daughter always confuses intensity with love, he muttered. I said nothing. He sighed. She failed you big time. I nodded. He finished loading the things and, before leaving, put a hand on my shoulder. Thank you for having taken care of her while she was here, and you did right by setting a boundary. When he left, I was left alone in the living room. There were dirty glasses still in a corner, half-deflated balloons, and the smell of stale beer. It looked like the stage after a mediocre performance. I sat down, looked around, and understood a lesson that hurts, but serves a purpose. There are people who do not love you for who you are, but for the stability you represent, while they keep chasing ghosts from the past. And when you finally see it, you must not fight to convince them. You must open the door and let them go. Comment. I want to thank you for sticking with this story until the end. Seeing someone choose their own peace after giving so much really hits home for me. I believe self-respect is not about being cold, but about quietly knowing your worth. When we set clear boundaries, we protect the kindness we still carry inside. True care should always feel mutual and safe for both people. Healing takes time, and that is perfectly okay. We each have a responsibility to choose relationships that lift us up instead of draining us. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is simply choose peace over what is familiar. I hope this encourages you to reflect gently on the relationships in your own life. You are deserving of calm, mutual respect, and real support every single day. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.